Hey everyone, welcome back to another MLM dumpster fire, or should I say welcome back to part 2 of this dumpster fire that is Eric Worre's podcast where Justin Prince is a guest. If you're coming back for part 2, thank you so much for coming back. I do appreciate you, that helps me out loads. If you watched part 1, yes, I've changed my clothes. I had to take a break. Because it was an hour of listening and talking about Eric and Justin, and it was a lot. So I had to take a break, go have some pizza, hydrate. Don't forget to hydrate. It's August. It's very warm in here, out here as well. I lived in Ireland for almost 8 years, so I'm not used to this heat anymore, even though I grew up in Croatia. You know the usual. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button if you want to support my channel in a nice free way. And thank you to all my members, as always, my channel members. And let's just get into part 2. It's longer than part 1, unfortunately.
I want to say this because my guess is that some of your listeners would feel this way. I felt like the model, there was some unsustainable parts of the model that, and I'm sharing this with your listeners because you won't, this hierarchy of certainty, if you feel like it's inevitable, I'm going to build this, so it's going to fall away, you're not going to put the effort and time in.
Of course.
And so I kind of got to that point where I felt like there was some, some inefficiencies and some instabilities within the model of networking. I also thought whoever can make the next iteration and fix some of that stuff is going to completely crush, and I look at our business now and I felt like that was one of the things, like, let's address some of these little, like, little parts. And those were good things to address. It created opportunity,
What opened you up after 2 years of being out? What opened you up to saying okay to another look?
It's interesting that he said that the MLM model is not stable and there are insufficiencies, which, I mean, yeah. Is that all? Are we just gonna leave it at that? What is the solution here? What do you mean? Of course there's uncertainty, because even if you reach top 1%, I'm sorry, I can't get comfy. It's so warm, and this chair is leather and it's really warm. And no, I don't have air conditioning in my bedroom, okay? I don't. Of course it's insufficient, it's not stable. Even when you reach the top 1%, you can be terminated. The MLM can shut down. The MLM can close the MLM business model, switch to like affiliate stuff. It happens. So if you're top 1% and they do that, you're kind of screwed. If you stop working the business while you're at the top, you might start losing people. You always have to be working. You always have to be on these calls and trainings to make sure that you are motivating your downline to keep working the business. Because if they stop working, if they leave, you're losing income. So yeah, you're never stable in an MLM. You're never financially secure. You don't, and I know you can argue that you can get fired or made redundant in a corporate job. Yeah, you can. That's true. But you're not safer than in a corporate job.
I think what ultimately opened me up was, besides the ILI stuff, like, in other words, I could create a great life doing this. I think what ultimately opened me up was I felt that pull to, one of the things I love about networking is we get to the impact thing, this ILI concept, income, lifestyle, but also we get to really impact people's lives. We get impacted their life in a really unique way. We're actually having this conversation last night. Like, a lot of the work.
Yeah, you get to impact people's lives by scamming them into a product-based pyramid scheme, in my opinion, and make them spend money on products, really expensive products that they probably don't even need. And you get them to work for free, and you make money based off of their work that they do for free. So that's a really unique way, to scam people, in my opinion.
Work you're doing has just massive impact, and you're, to your credit, you're like, I'm gonna impact more. I'm gonna press harder. It's unique. It's really unique in what we do. So I think that was part of it. And then I also felt like we had a chance from a business model perspective to kind of do something unique too.
Yeah, well, I know your company decided to do some stuff unique, but you were involved very early stage in this company.
Oh,
and it wasn't put together. It was, probably a little bit messy and a little bit unformed.
Well, so we
did you get excited about being involved in an early stage and being part of the development of some of the things that you'd like to fix?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
That
Yes.
was something that
For sure.
motivated you?
Absolutely.
I mean, you should be excited. Let me rephrase that. I mean, you're probably excited to get into an MLM at its early stage, because that's one of the very few ways where you can get successful in an MLM, is if you're one of the first reps in the MLM's early stage. That's how you get successful in an MLM. You get in early, or you have a bunch of followers on social media that you recruit into your team. Otherwise, you have like 99% of chances of never making profit in an MLM. All MLMs, not just Modair or whatever this company is that he's talking about. I forgot which company we're talking about.
So think of it this way. This was not a startup. This was a turnaround.
Yeah.
The
Which
two-
is harder.
The two hardest things to do in business. Hardest thing to do in business is turnaround.
Yeah.
Second hardest is a startup. We did
Catch
both.
a falling knife.
We did
It's
both
not
at the
easy.
same time. We
Yeah.
tore the one to the floorboards. It's like your jet. It's like changing the engine of your jet at 30,000 feet.
Right.
I mean, come on, dude. This is not easy.
Yeah.
So we tore that one down. You know, one day this bottle ships. The next month this bottle ships with a whole new everything. You know, new name, new ownership, new comp plan, new product pricing. I mean, you just changed everything. You know, new leadership, new executive management team. I mean, just literally anything you could change, we changed.
Yeah.
And kept some of these good assets and changed everything else. And so you're doing a turnaround and a startup at the same time, and just grinding your little fingers on this vision and dream. And, you know, Tony and Sarah Zalecki, first people that said yes to me, I remember Sarah said, she goes, I'm in. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, sister, into what? I'm thinking this to myself. We don't even have a name for this thing yet. I don't even know what we're doing, you know? And she just saw the vision, you know, and she's like, let's go. And I look at that now, and we grinded for those first about
The vision or the opportunity to scam a bunch of people out of money, in my opinion.
for us, it was about the first 4 years was like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we were growing, but it was just incremental growth each year. You know, we were growing, but it was incremental. And I'd rather take incremental growth than incremental would fall apart, but it was small. And a great leadership lesson for anyone listening. How do you pull people through tough times? How do you pull a team through tough times? And what I tell people is you want to lead with vision and lead with transparency and authenticity. As a parent, you can't tell your kids everything because it'd be too heavy. It's too much for the child to hear everything. But you can say, hey, listen, guys, mom's going to get us through this. We're going to be fine. Dad's going to pull through this. We're going to be okay. So that's vision. When the Bible verses where there's no vision, people perish. Here's the thing, is the vision creates, everyone asks themselves, is it always going to be this way? It's a subconscious question that we ask. In a marriage, if you're in a fight in a marriage, if the answer is it all, we subconsciously like, is it always gonna be this way? We're going to fight forever? Well, if the answer is yes, then you'll make different decisions versus, listen, I love you. I'm sorry, you know, and boom, you're past it and you're good. So when you go through tough times in a business, is it always going to be this way? No, guys, we got a vision. Here's where we're headed. But then also being able to acknowledge, listen, I know it's tough, but we're going to get there together. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to work a plan. Because what happened for us, Eric, is we tapped into what I call collective genius. So you have your own individual genius you'd bring to the party. And from life experience, and in your case, you'd bring a lot of it, right? I'd have my own individual genius, life experience, what I've experienced. But if we can lay it on the table in a spirit of love and harmony, in a spirit of humility, and say that we just let the ideas create. I tell people, ideas lead to ideas if we're willing to not have to own the ideas and take all the credit for the ideas and so on. Reagan had a quote on his desk that says, there's no limit to the amount of good you can do in the world if you don't care who gets the credit. Because sometimes the idea that does it for all of us is this idea, but we don't get to this idea without this bad kind of unfinished bad one. And then and this really sucky, crappy one that someone laid on the table and we said, no, that's not it. But instead of them getting their feelings hurt, they said, okay, cool. And we're like, but you know what? We could actually maybe try that. And that leads to this, to this. So I look at like the leadership team we built now. It literally blows my mind. The caliber of people, the caliber of human beings they are, as well as, you know, leadership talents and abilities. And I look, I mean, it's the amount of richness, you know, some people are subtractions in your life. Some people are divisions in your life. They'll divide. Some people are additions. You're with them and you're like, I'm better with you. And there's some people who are multipliers.
Yeah.
You know, you get around people that they know how to just multiply your life. You know, it's incredible. You're a multiplier. You multiply people's lives.
Yeah, you too.
And I look at our teams and I'm like, we have a bunch of multipliers here, for sure, a bunch of additions. My life is better with them. And in many ways, they're multiplying people. Those are great people to be around.
I want to talk to you about how you develop those leaders, because that doesn't happen by accident. Sometimes it's, there's leadership growth within companies by acquisition. Some leader that was some other place in the profession finds their way into your company. Sometimes it's by accident. They just self-identify and rise from, the ashes on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, those are basically the two processes for people to be able to do it. Rarely is it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a leadership development strategy that an organization has. The ones that have it on purpose, some have by acquisition, some have by accident. The on purpose ones really separate themselves from the crowd. But the question I have, you're talking about vision. I believe leaders talk in 4 languages. Okay. And I'm going to give you the 4 and I want you to rank them in your opinion in order of importance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If a leader's talking, from my observation, one language is the language of assignments. Every time they're talking with somebody, they're giving an assignment. No matter what happens at the end, somewhere in that conversation, there's an assignment that's in the best interest of that person to get them to do something that would move them forward. Second language is the language of challenge. Whatever they're going to do, they challenge them to do a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit faster, whatever. But they're always challenging, pushing. Come on, you got more inside of you. They believe in you, all that other kind of stuff. Challenge is the second. Third one is the language of stories. They're always using stories to be able to emphasize a point, to reinforce some sort of action, lesson, whatever they're trying to do. And the fourth one is vision. They're constantly talking in vision. And if you look at any great leader, like you naturally talk in those languages, depending on who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Some you're going to be talking to vision. Some you're going to be giving a challenge. Some need to hear a story. Some, you're just going to give them an assignment to get them to move forward. If you had to rank those 1 through 4, how would you rank them?
God, so it's hard for me as I'm hearing it. I'll tell you why. You said it at the end. Each person is different. So in other words, I would almost rank it different depending on the person, right?
What's the most common one, let's say?
I'll tell you the one that's the least common that I think is most important. And that is having a vision, having a clear vision. Like having something.
And the ability to communicate.
And can be able to communicate. I have one, not just for me, but for you. And most importantly for us.
Here's what's in it for you.
What we can do. Not just what you can do or what I can do, but like, hey, together, you and I together, we can do. You do this. We were talking about this last night. Hey, maybe we could do this, or it's not what you could go do.
I mean, if you're using that language to talk to people who are in an MLM, to talk to your downline, in this case, okay, Justin is talking to someone from his downline who's like, this is what we can do. But in reality, in an MLM, you're motivating that person to work, and that person works, and you get benefits off of their work. That person is most likely not even profiting unless they're one of your main, successful leaders in your downline. The majority of them who are on, first rank or second rank, they're not profiting. So even if you manage to sell them your vision and be like, this is what we can do together, all that's gonna do is you're gonna get more benefits, you're gonna get more money because that person is gonna work more because they're motivated by the vision, but they're not getting anything out of it. You are.
By the way, if you share with me what you can do, it's inspiring. Mm-hmm. If you share with me what I could go do, it's pretty inspiring. But man, when you share with us what we could do, that's pretty powerful, right? And you can articulate that and say, guys, I think together we could do something special. So I think that's number one. I feel like vision is like vision's like a rudder in a ship. It just steers the ship. Like, where are we headed? So that'd be one for me. And I think that one's the one that we probably lack the most in our profession. We call and give them assignments. Like, we won't grind if I can't see that. I'm not going to in other words, is it always going to be this way? I'm not just going to grind forever.
People are good in our business of giving facts, but not necessarily good at assignments. They're good at telling.
How are people in MLM good at getting facts when a lot of them don't do the research outside of what their upline tells them? And a lot of it is from the upline being really manipulative and encouraging them not to do research outside of it. But all the facts are against the MLM model. All the facts show that the majority of people don't make any profit and that it's a business that's not going to give you any benefits. You're not going to be successful in it. So I would not agree with what he just said, that people in this industry are good with facts and not assignments. He's trying to say they're good at facts but not with assignments, and that's why I guess they're failing. Is that it?
Stories from time to time, not so good at challenging people. If people say they're going to do this, you know what I mean? The great leaders, they just all for. It's just here's an assignment. No matter what, they literally, if they're in proximity to somebody, that person's going to get an assignment. They're going to get a challenge. They're going to get a little dose of the vision. Here's why it's worth it to go do this, and maybe tell a story. They might put all four into a conversation.
Absolutely.
Not even consciously doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, think about any great leader, kind of break down how they're communicating, and you'll see those are the languages that
the assignments create commitment. When you make, it's two steps. When you make and keep commitments, that's how you move forward in your life. You have to make one and then keep them. It's because the secret to life is momentum. And, you know, a train running down the tracks at 55 miles an hour, if we were to put steel reinforced concrete on the tracks, it would hit it like it would vaporize it into dust. If you take the same train, it's at a dead stop, and you put 2 inches of concrete on right there, right underneath the tracks, or right underneath the wheels, it won't move an inch. So what's the difference? The difference is momentum. So if you can create momentum for someone, momentum in their fitness, momentum in their confidence, momentum in their business, how do you create momentum? It's making and keeping commitments. And sometimes it's baby steps. Of course.
You know, I don't really believe personally, if I have to, if somebody tells me I'm going to baby step my way to the top, I'm very depressed about that whole idea. I don't do well in, I'm kind of a all in.
Yeah, me too.
Or nothing type of
me too.
A person. I use projects to keep me doing the thing from project to project. That's my hack to get past my natural rebellion against structured authority is to create a project with a deadline, and that'll cause me to do it. But some people need a baby step, because what I've learned is I wasn't a great student, but I know that there's one of the laws that says things in motion tend to stay in motion. And so my job as a leader is just get them in motion, because it tends to stay in motion, and give them the next thing, then the next thing, and the next thing, and build their confidence, build their belief.
Not only are some of them small, you want to purposely start small, because the making and keeping of a commitment is what builds the confidence to make and keep more and bigger commitments. So it's things where you give them assignments and give them steps and strategies that you know they can go hit. Number one, like in other words, I want them to hit one. I want them to do the thing.
Yeah.
And it's not, by the way, it's not results-based stuff. It's not get a customer. It's not get a team member. It's not hit a rank.
Just an action.
It's just take the step.
Yeah.
It's like download the app.
Give me your opinion on this. Yeah. Little steps. Download the app, use the product. By the way,
if they don't do it,
yeah,
I'm learning too.
Right.
I'm like, nah, I don't know if this is where I want to put a lot of my time.
Well, here's what I learned. Find out if they're willing, hungry, coachable. If they say they are, and they always do, and I ask them what their goals are, then I'll give them an assignment based upon those goals. And let's say it's an 8 out of 10 because they say they're really pumped up, but then they don't do it. Then I'll drop it down to a 6. I'll drop it down to a 4.
Absolutely.
Until I get it down to a 1.
Absolutely.
I'm going to send you this link that has a 2-minute video. Will you watch it? Will you use our product today one time? I mean, whatever, something simple.
Yes. Yes.
And once I find that level of kind of acceptance, then I can build from there. You know, sometimes people give an assignment, people don't do it, and they just kind of like, it's a sorting tool. You know, I guess they're not serious, but they were trying to speak into existence with confidence what they were not confident about, and they went out there by themselves and they faced some fear, and it scared them to death, and now they're ghosting you a little bit. I want to ask you about this.
I mean, okay, that's one story you can tell yourself, but you don't know what happened and you don't know that that happens every time. But also, isn't that what they teach people who join MLMs? That you have to basically fake it until you make it and be confident about the business model, about the product, go out there and convince people. And some people are not good at faking it. I don't really like his tone because he's kind of condescending, I guess. I don't know. Let me know down below what you think.
I think there's basically three different types of people in the world. Pessimists, people who think things are going to not work out, things are going to get worse, things are going to fall apart, people are probably going to say no, right? Pretty big group of people. And they're actually kind of proud of it. I told you. I told you it was going to not work out because, I predicted it. Second group are the realists. They're very...
Okay, we've heard this from the igenius one that I covered like last week or 2 weeks ago about the pessimist realist. You're not necessarily a pessimist if you're saying that an MLM business is not going to work for somebody. You might just be anti-MLM, or you might know enough so that you know that the majority of people in MLMs don't make any profit. So that doesn't necessarily make you a pessimist. It depends. But of course he's gonna put the anti-MLM movement into the pessimists because we're like, it's not gonna work, and then when it doesn't, we're like, well, we told you so. But it's only because we know the facts. We're not pessimists. We know the facts, and we know that it's not going to work for the majority of people.
Very, very conscious of how other people see them. They're and failure is the ultimate no-no. So because of that, they set very, very, very small goals because they don't ever want to be embarrassed. Okay, and if they miss one, then they'll really lower it down. And then there's visionaries. And the visionaries set these outrageous, ridiculous, over-the-top, crazy goals in short periods of time that are unrealistic. And they almost never hit them. But they hit higher than the other two groups.
That reminds me, Megan Savage, the igenius girl that speaks about this, she heard that from Eric, 100%.
Right? Because of the reach, because of the stretch.
That was you when you missed that rank.
That
when
rank
you
as an
when you
example,
missed that rank, you pressed so hard to get there that if you would have been the realist, like there's no real chance of it, or the pessimist, you never would have stretched to almost freaking hit it. You missed the moon and hit the stars.
Right. So, but they have to be willing to be embarrassed.
Which is what happened.
In order to be able to even reach that high. So how are you wired? Pessimist, realist, visionary.
Okay, let me say this. Step one in moving something forward is you have to call things as they are. Mm-hmm. Not better, not worse.
Awareness, self-awareness.
You have to. Because if we can't, in this case, be the realist and just call things as they are, let's not make them better, let's not Pollyanna them, and let's also not make them worse. Okay. Just that takes a lot of emotional maturity and emotional skill to just say, we've got some problems. Because we can't solve things like in addiction recovery, for example. Step one is admit. What does that mean? It means let's just admit it. Let's get a baseline. The best place to begin a new venture is reality baseline, right? Okay. University of Pennsylvania did a study, 22-year study, 350,000 people, and they found that a thinking pattern began to emerge over a 22-year period that was what they called predictive of success. So wouldn't you want to know if there was a way you could think that it would predict success? What was the thinking pattern? And guess what it was? It was optimism. They noticed that the optimistic people, it became a predictor of success. Now, here's what's interesting. 2 characteristics they found in these optimistic people. One is that they had an unrealistic expectation that they were going to succeed. An unrealistic expectation. And by the way, let me pontificate for a minute. This is an academic studying you, right? They're studying Eric Worre, and they're over a 22-year period, and they're thinking to themselves, because you're telling them, they're doing the study, I'm going to accomplish this and all this visionary stuff. And guess what they're thinking? That's unrealistic. Unrealistic to who? In this case, to them, or maybe even unrealistic in the world.
Yep.
But it's not unrealistic to you. You're willing to go for it and chase it. That optimism or that visionary part. Second characteristic is they would try new things until they succeeded. I tell people the word until can guarantee your success. Ogmandino wrote those famous scrolls, right? The greatest salesman in the world. He says, I will persist until I succeed. The visionary looks at it and says, I'm going to call it as it is, but yet I'm going to persist until I succeed. Yeah. So most people
okay, sure, but sometimes also it's worth noting that sometimes you're not in a situation to do that. What exactly do we mean when we say I'm gonna keep trying until I succeed? Because if you're gonna keep changing MLMs and stay in the same industry, you're probably not gonna succeed. It doesn't matter how many MLMs you jump ship to. If you don't have a social media following that you can recruit, or if you're not joining the MLM at its early stages, then it doesn't matter how much you try. You're not going to succeed because the odds are against you. The business model is working against you. But also sometimes people don't have the money, or they're not in a situation to like keep getting themselves into these new ventures until they succeed. Sometimes people just can't do that, whether it's financially they can't or other situations that would prevent them from doing it. But again, these are two MLM coaches. So if they're talking about MLMs and changing MLMs and trying again until you succeed again, you're not gonna, it doesn't matter how many times you try, how hard you work, you're not gonna succeed because the business model is set up so that you're gonna fail.
Persist until it gets hard. They persist until the customer quits. They persist until the team member leaves. That team quits. They persist until that point. Where these optimistic visionary people will say, I'll just persist until I succeed.
Yeah.
And that is
okay, you're an optimist, but sometimes you have to like take a step back and take a look at the situation you're in currently with this MLM business of yours. Let's say you need income, you need more income, whether you are a stay-at-home mom and you don't have any income at all and you want this MLM business to bring you income. Or if you have a full-time job but you're working on this MLM business on the side because you need more income, right? If you're working on this business for a few months, a few years even, you have to take a step back first and take a look at it. Okay, I've been working this business for 2 years. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not even profiting. Maybe make a profit and loss statement. See how much you're spending on the products and how much profit you're actually getting. What is the paycheck that you're getting monthly, if you're getting any, and if you are profiting. And then if you're not profiting, I think that's pretty clear. You have to find something else, and not a different MLM, something else altogether. If you are profiting, then still take a look at the amount of time and work and effort that you're putting in, and is it worth it? Like, take a step back and logically look at it. It's not enough to just be stubborn or optimistic and persistent. You have to be realistic and logical about your situation, what you're doing, and if you're getting the benefits that you want this situation to give you.
These predictors. So to me, if you say, how am I wired? I'm not a hype. I don't do hype. I don't do, I feel like I'm a kind of a realist person. Like I feel like I can try and say, hey, this is our challenges and this is how we're going to fix them or whatever. But I'm an optimistic visionary that says, guys, we can go accomplish things together that we couldn't do, without each other. And so I'm wired a little bit with both. Pessimism, I don't have on any of that. But I think the foundation of success is finding the reality. That's how you build from true. In order, if you don't have that, it's sandy.
Right.
There's not a rock solid foundation. But then from there, it's just all vision and optimism.
One thing I'll push back even on my old friend Ogmandino is persist until success isn't the full game. And I'll tell you why. It's like saying you'll win if you don't quit.
I want to hit you with this.
So let me just add to it. You'll win if you don't quit. You'll guarantee to lose if you quit, but you have to not quit. You have to persist, and you have to get better.
Check this out. I'm keynote speaking for a wealth management firm in Seattle. And I'm the youngest. I'm not the youngest guy in the room, but I'm probably 36, 37. They're all much older than I am. The median income's $500,000. The median income's $750,000 a year. A bunch of these guys make a couple $1 million a year, and I'm this young keynote speaker, right? There's a gentleman sitting in the back. He's probably 60 something. He's got his glasses, his like reading glasses are put up like this, and he's like this, but he's kind of raising his hand, but then would just come back down, and I'm walking in the room, and it was one of those things where I could tell he wanted to say something, but also didn't want to just completely screw up the flow of the presentation. And I finally just, sir, I was talking about persisting until you succeed. And he said, There's a fine line between being persistent and being crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're telling us persist until you succeed. If I'm doing the wrong things over and over, but I'm just going to persist and I'm just so committed. I'm just going to bang my head against the wall forever. And I said, you're right. I said, you're absolutely right. And by the way, you are too.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but the word until still guarantees your success.
Yes.
And he goes, why? I said, because I will adapt until I succeed. I will grow until I succeed. I will adjust until I succeed. I will read the book until I succeed. I'll show up early until I succeed. I'll stay up late until I succeed. I'll go to that next event when I am at my wit's end.
See, I disagree. When it comes to an MLM, I really disagree with this because, again, it's the business model and it doesn't matter how you adapt or how much you work or how late you stay up working and texting people and cold messaging people or how early in the day you wake up to work your business or whatever. That all doesn't matter when the business model is set up for you to fail. I think the only thing that you can do to really try is to gain a bunch of followers on social media, because at that point, if you're in an oversaturated MLM, if you didn't join early, your only way of getting people in your downline would be to have a big social media following. So that would be probably the only thing that you can work. If I'm missing something, let me know down below in the comments. But like, that's the only thing that would increase, I guess, your chances of being a little bit successful in this MLM is if you grow your following on social media and then you recruit them into your team. How are you going to adapt to the business model where if the majority of people are just not making any profit? It's not that they're not working hard enough or that they're not adapting or trying. It's the business model is the issue.
Right now, until I succeed.
Yes.
So the word until is still this secret formula of like, no. You still anchor down on, I'll persist, I'll adapt, I'll grow, I'll change, I'll adjust, I'll become real, I'll build new skills.
Yes.
I won't wish for things that I don't have. A mentor of mine calls me one time. I'm making probably $650 a month at this point in networking. This is my second company. So I just gotten started. I'm grinding. I moved, so I'm below zero financially, trying to get going, have the 2 part-time jobs, kids living in the loft, the whole thing. He calls me and he says, he has 72,000 people on his team. And I looked up to this guy. He was in his 60s. He was his worst year in networking since 1978 was $500,000. Oh, poor guy only made 40 grand a month that year. He'd made millions and millions and millions. He calls me, he goes, let me ask you a question. He said, if I could move my entire team under you, and I want to ask this to your listener right now. So I want just to viscerally answer this question. If I could move my entire team, 72,000 people under you, he said, would it change how much energy, passion, focus, intensity, commitment you would put into this business? And I said, can I be honest with you? And he said, yeah. I said, yes, sir, it would. And my mentor was known for his straight talk. He was a former engineer, so he wasn't fluffy at all. Mm-hmm. He said, shame on you. He said, you're letting the tail wag the dog. He says, first you gain the focus, gain the commitment, gain the drive, gain the passion, gain the intensity, and the business follows that. A lot of people are like, hey, listen, you pay me 10 grand a month, I'll show up on all the Zooms. No. First you show up on the Zoom, the training, and then you get to the money. Because faith precedes the miracle. Mm-hmm. In other words, you don't get the miracle, then the faith. You don't plant the row of peas and harvest rows of watermelon. There's these rules that we all have to live by, right? So you persist until you have confidence until, even when you don't really have the confidence yet. Yep. By the way, the precursor to confidence, if you don't have confidence yet, because confidence, the foundation of success is believing in yourself. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe in you, you're going to go get everyone else to believe in you, and you don't even believe in you. So the foundation of success, you say, but I don't even believe in me yet. What's the precursor? It's courage. You can do the video, but you say, I look like an idiot. I have something weird in my teeth. Hey, that's courage. That takes courage. That's not confidence. That's courage. You say, I can't do the presentation. If I do the presentation, I'm going to blow it. By the way, I could give you those stories. I just blew it so bad. Oh my gosh. That was courage. Mm-hmm. So you can lean first into courage, but over time, your courage will build into a point where you have confidence. The confidence over time will build into commitment. Where there is no confidence, there's no commitment. You won't be committed to something you have no confidence in. Right. But your confidence, courage leads to confidence to commitment.
Put one before. I mean, here was my process, because there is this gap between confidence where you want to be and being incompetent.
Well,
where you are.
Guess where I was headed.
Well,
the next one would be competency.
Well, here's what I would tell you. I think you gain confidence by doing good stuff.
Listening to them talk like this gives me major big brains think alike vibes.
Ultimately, and getting the feedback loop from it.
And becoming more competent.
Right. So how do you become more competent? How do you put yourself in a situation? What worked for me was two things.
Well, I'd love to know, Eric, how do you become more competent in an unethical business model where the majority of people never make any profit, which is statistically proven? It's proven by the income disclosure statements, by the FTC. I'm sure we would all like to know, how are you supposed to become more competent in that kind of business?
In particular, number one is I borrowed the confidence of others, people's belief in me.
Of course.
I borrowed their belief in me, and I said, well, they must see something, so I'm going to try. Second is I modeled very confident people.
Love that.
And I pretended like I was them.
Yes.
I would use their words, their
that.
posture,
Yes.
How they would handle themselves, act.
That sounds like it's the same thing. Those two things are the same thing, aren't they? You are borrowing confidence from someone else and you're mimicking someone else's confidence. Isn't that the same thing? Also, we just said a few minutes ago that some people go out there, try to fake it, try to be fake confident, and they don't succeed because they just couldn't do it. They weren't cut out for it. So interesting. How is this useful to anyone who is trying to work their MLM business? I just don't see it.
As if I was them almost.
Did you feel disingenuous doing that at times?
No. I'll tell you one quick story. Jeff Roberti, who's a legend in the profession, he was a top earner in the company that I started with. And I, as a 20-something with no background, my most intimidating prospect was a 45-year-old marketing or advertising executive from some company who would belittle what I was doing and bring all their crazy ideas that didn't work inside of network marketing after the presentation. So, what I would typically do is I'd say, okay, I'd get them to the presentation. They'd see the presentation, and then they would, I'd say, what'd you like best? And they'd say, well, this is cute, but have you ever tried this and this and this and this?
Yeah,
and I've got all these contexts and backgrounds, and I knew all that stuff didn't work. But I didn't have, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
So I usually just kiss their ass and kind of, we should go talk to them. Let's go bring it to the company.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. You're a genius.
Of course.
Never worked.
I've done that.
Wasted everybody's time.
Yep.
So Jeff Roberti came to town and he did a meeting for us. And sure enough, and I'm one of my good skills is being aware, watching things when other people don't see things. And I watched him do a presentation, normal presentation. Afterwards, one of those marketing and advertising guys walked up to him.
Got it.
And I'm listening. And he says to Jeff, hey, Jeff, I understand what you're doing and I get it. And, this is a good model and congratulations on your success. But you ever tried this and this and this and this and this and this? And Jeff just went, hold it. I'm making this amount of money doing it this way. Mm-hmm. Would that amount of money be enough for you? And he said, well, yeah. He said, well, why don't we just hold all of your great ideas and, all of your genius until you're at least getting to this level that we know works. And then you can add all your ideas. Does that sound fair? He said, yeah, that sounds fair. He said, all right, let's go do the paperwork. The guy said, okay. And they walked over and did the paperwork. And I was like,
you know what? Actually, I find it really funny because I remember Jessie Lee talking about, she used to say this quite often. When she started the network marketing business, she was looking at the people at the top being, I think she even said bald old guys. And she was thinking to herself, how are these people successful? If they're successful, surely I can be as well. I feel like it just shows how disingenuous the whole industry is. And it's funny that what he thought about other top earners is what Jessie Lee probably thought about him.
A magic trick. I'm like, what? That
level of confidence.
And also what he said.
Yeah, of course.
So I mark it all down, right?
But that's confidence. What he said is confidence.
Yeah. So watch this. So next, I cannot wait. I'm just in my chair, please let some arrogant executive come to me, some point in the future so I can try this. I got to try this because I'm not confident. So sure enough, a month later, guy comes in, same exact kind of thing. And he starts telling me his thing and Jeff's thing pops into my head. So I kind of straighten my posture like Jeff. And I said, hold it.
Yeah.
He's 47. I'm 24. I say, hold it. He gets this look on his face. I said, look, the people that I work with, my mentor, he makes this
Yes.
amount of money doing it this way. Would that amount of money be good enough for you? He says, well, yeah. He said, well, why don't you just hold all your great ideas and innovation and all that stuff until you're at least making what we know works inside of this business. Why don't you just hold it until then you can implement it. Does that sound fair? He said, yeah, that sounds fair. He said, well, come on over here. Let's do the paperwork. He says, okay. And I'm walking. He's following me around, across the room. I'm like, I just performed a magic trick. I am David Copperfield. This is the most unbelievable thing. So I acted as confident as Jeff was, and I got the result. And I was like, I'm going to start collecting these things. I'm going to watch how people get people started. I'm going to start doing all this stuff. I'm not confident, but I'm just going to pretend for a minute. And I wasn't disingenuous. In that situation, I had a solution that I watched somebody do. I didn't lie about that I was that person.
No question.
I was connected with them. You know what I mean? So modeling was one thing. And here was a big one, really big one for me. Being willing to put myself in potentially embarrassing situations and deal with it. That's what built my confidence. You cannot put me in a situation that I can't handle. I just decided I'm going to be okay with egg on my face. If I don't have an answer, I'm going to say, that's a great question. I don't know. Let's go find out.
Yep.
And that gave me confidence. Just the fact that I didn't have to be the source gave me confidence that I could lead people to a source. So modeling, taking people's belief in me was one. Modeling very confident people was number two. And number three, being willing to be embarrassed, humiliated potentially, and handle it. And that gave me confidence. And those three things helped me ultimately become competent.
Yes.
And once I was confident, then
you
I was
build
gonna
that
take more actions.
competency through
Repetition.
The repetition. The muscle is built over it.
Yeah.
There's a young boy out of Wichita, Kansas, flunking out of high school, raised by a single mom. And May of his junior year, he promises his mom he'll take the SAT test. And if the SAT has two sides, kind of a language comprehension and math. So there's 800 points each, both. It's 600 points total. Kid goes in, remember, flunking out of school, flunking out of his life, and takes the test, gets the results back, and he scores a 1480, which means the kid's a genius. So he takes his test result back to his mom. His mom says what our moms would have said to you and me. She goes, baby, did you cheat? He goes, Mom, I did not cheat. This is real. And she goes, my son's a genius. No kidding. He realizes if I'm a genius, I might as well stop hanging out with the bad kids and go to class and stop ditching. His teacher said, Franklin, we had it wrong on you. You're a pretty smart kid. So graduates high school, graduates from junior college, goes to Wichita State, graduates from the Ivy Leagues, ultimately becomes an entrepreneur in the magazine industry, becomes one of the most wealthy entrepreneurs in the magazine industry in the country. You say, man, what a cool story. Guy becomes a multimillionaire because he realizes he's a genius. He's a 1480. About 13 years later, he gets a letter in the mail from Princeton, New Jersey. And it says, he opens it up and it says, we periodically review the test-taking policies and test-taking procedures. And the year that you took the SAT, we regret to inform you were sent the wrong test score. They said, you're not a 1480, you're a 740. And he said, people have told me my whole life, your life changed when you got this 1480 test score. He says, no, my whole life changed when I started acting like a 1480.
Where did I hear this story before? Was it Justin or was it Air? Somebody definitely told this story on like a training call a few years ago even. I feel like I can't remember who it was, but I know I've heard this example.
And so you say, as you're listening, how do I have Eric's confidence? You just start acting with that confidence. How do I have Eric's posture? You start acting with Eric's posture.
Modeling
successful people.
Be willing to be embarrassed. You're not.
Okay, but it's different when you are aware that you're pretending this person, this kid, they actually believed that this is what they scored, that they're super smart or they're a genius. So it's kind of different when you actually believe it and you think it and then you live by it. It also depends. Did he say that he was an entrepreneur in an MLM? Is that one? Maybe I missed that one. But still, like, it's different when you're actually believing and you're convinced into something and then you're acting that certain way. It's different if you know that you're not a genius, but you're just going to pretend that you are. But you know that you're not. So it's not the same thing again.
That cool. Don't treat yourself so seriously. Just be willing to, like, you know what? I screwed up. I've said that thing wrong. Or I made a mistake here. I misspoke over there. Hey, if I can do it, you can. I just literally would not where normally like perfectionists sometimes struggle because if they don't have the exact answer to every single thing, they don't even want to start the conversation versus saying, I'm not the source.
I'm fumbling, I'm bumbling.
I'm a connector.
That's right.
I'm going to connect you to the source. So don't worry about, it's not about me. Don't even look at me.
That's right.
I'm just going to introduce you to other people that are smarter than I am and other resources that have more information than I am. So tell me about your book.
So I wrote a book called Be the One.
Yeah.
And I want to point out two things. It's not become the one. The first thing I want you to know is that you're the one. So if you were to take your parents.
Neo?
Yeah. Think of it this way. You take your parents, it's 2, grandparents 4, great grandparents, etc. It's like network marketing duplication, right? There was 4,094 people over last 12 generations that came from all over parts of the world, lived, bled, died, triumphs, tragedies, did all of this work for you to have this moment, to have this air, to like have this time. They did it for you. You're the one. So, because I think a lot of people are like, well, of course Eric's the one. Like, I get that. Or of course, your guests are there. I get that they are. No. You're the one for your family. You are the one. And so you want to be that one today. It's almost like be the 1480 today. Step into that today. And so for me, I wanted to write a book that helped you to realize who this is the identity. Success is an identity process. You'll never outperform the way you see yourself. So James Clear wrote Atomic Habits, right? Mm-hmm. He says there's 2 boys. The one boy stole the candy. And he says to the little child, did you steal the candy? And they said, I didn't steal it. And they said to the little boy, did you steal the candy? And the little boy said, I don't steal. I don't steal is a different identity that child has than I didn't steal that particular piece of candy, right? So when you start to understand who you really are, you start to say, if I'm the one for my family, I'm the one that future generations of kids will look up and they'll say it was him, it was her. She's the one that did it for our family. If I'm that one, I'm going to show up a little bit different today. I'm going to be that one today. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I didn't want to just give people motivation. I hope that they feel motivated and inspired and, touches parts of their soul. But I wanted to give them tactical, like I've asked myself, like, how did this happen? How did you go from broken home, no college education, selling animated Bible videos, failed business, living in a loft above your wife's parents' garage to like doing billions of dollars in revenue and like traveling all over the world and building multiple multi-million-dollar business? Like, how did all this happen? And I encapsulated the formulas and the frameworks and the strategies and the skill sets that you need. One of the reasons I think you and I resonate is you want to actually give you tactical, practical skills to help somebody, to help you to be the one, the one in your life and to live a significant life. I remember driving in my white Toyota Corolla, 240,000 miles in it, struggling in network marketing. And I'm listening to an audio series by Jim Rohn.
Which one?
It's so interesting. It's a 2000, you can go look this up on YouTube, 2004 Anaheim event.
Got it. Chris
Widener was the MC. Yep. He hit me up on Facebook the other day and we were kind of going back and forth. And I just told him, like, hey man, that CD series, because it had some of the greats, it had Brian Tracy and it had Dennis Waitley and just some of the, just the legends, Jim Rohn stands up at the end. So the whole event's over. I've been listening to this CD series for, no kidding, probably a month because you're in and out of your car. So every time I'd be in, I'd just listen to this. All these great speakers. I'm super inspired. And Jim Rohn stands up at the end. He says, we now have enough testimonials and enough personal experiences to conclude that it's possible to create and to design an extraordinary life. And I knew it was possible for all those other people to do it. I just heard all their stories. I knew it was.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Literally only like 1% or less people, distributors in any MLM, in all MLMs out there. All the income disclosure statements are very similar to each other. The numbers are very similar. 90-something% of people don't even profit in an MLM. And you have a handful of people that are earning money, and you're going to say that that's enough evidence that it's possible.
In this case, people know it's possible because you did it. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know if it was going to be possible for me, driving the 240,000, mile white Toyota Corolla and working at the mall. And I now, Eric, get to add my name to this proverbial list of people that get to come on your show. It's almost surreal. Seriously. If someone listening to this, like, dude, what if I was on Eric's show? Guys, I feel the same way. I get to add my name to the list of people that get to share with your audience that their dreams and that their goals are possible. It's possible for them to create and to design an extraordinary life. They are the one that was born to do that. And so that's what the book's all about.
I love it. Well, we'll put links in the description. I read a research report that described super successful people that they had 3 traits. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard this.
I can't wait to hear it.
Trait number 1, they have kind of a irrational belief system that they're meant to do something big. Number 2, they have almost a crippling sense of insecurity and a lack of self-worth, almost imposter syndrome at the same time. And 3, they're willing to delay gratification in the pursuit of their goals. They don't have to have instant gratification. They're willing to delay it in order to be able to do something great. And I found that fascinating because does that resonate with you, those 3 things, or no?
They absolutely.
What book is that though? Who said that? Because all those sound like perfect things that you would say to someone who is working a business where they're doomed to fail, so that you can keep them in for longer and you can keep earning money based off of their hard work. That just seems like it was made, created, written, whatever, for people in MLMs to keep them in the MLM for longer.
We do. It's interesting, particularly that first one ties back to that University of Pennsylvania study where they had unrealistic expectations. In this case, it's just this unrational, the insecurity one, the imposter syndrome one, 100% I can relate. And then I also, there's parts of me. So let me hit you with this. I want to hit you with this, and then I want you to keep going. I shared this to my wife the other day. I go, honey, I feel like I'm like a fraud. And she's like, what are you talking about, bro? Like even with the book,
yeah,
you kind of get into this, it's almost like a new world, what I'm saying? You get it, because on my world, you've done it, you're there. And there was times before, as you're coming up 17, 18 years ago, where you're like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to figure this. So you hit the mountain, then you start a new, go chase a new mountain kind of thing. So that stuff does hit. So I can relate to that one too. And then the third one was
delayed gratification. Oh,
that's absolutely true.
Just willing
Abso-freaking-lutely true.
You're willing to persist and get better. Persist and get better until, and it's okay. You don't have to have the results right now because you got the goal in your mind.
Can I hit you with something just
Sure.
on this? University of Scranton did a study. And it said, what percentage of people hold to their New Year's resolutions in a year? We already know, listening right now, very few, right? Within a month, most people have fallen off. If you want to be in the top 8%, so 92%, you've beat 92% of the people. So imagine you're in your company, top 8%. Guess what it was? They would do it for 1 year. Like if you're in this game in a year from now, you'll probably start getting in the top percent, single digit percentiles. If you're here with us 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, in other words, you're just willing to delay. Eric, I've never worked.
That's literally not how that works in MLMs. And I think that Justin knows. I think that he's just talking, whatever. He's just saying things that he knows are going to keep people motivated and it's going to keep them from working the business for longer. That's not how that works in an MLM. It doesn't matter how long you are in it.
Harder for less money in my life than those first number of years of networking. Those stories that people are like, dude, first year I made this much and I made $1 million. That was not me, dude. It was not me. Now I've made tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars doing this, which is, I feel so blessed and grateful. But a lot of that was back end. In other words, I grinded for years, working part-time jobs and chasing the dream and telling people like casting a vision, team, we're going to get there. And they're probably looking at me like, what are you talking about? And so I absolutely agree with that. If you want to get in the top 8%, stick to something for a year.
Yeah.
Because most people don't. Most people quit. The wind blows them out. Someone says boo and they're done.
Yeah. The secret weapon for me was God's gift to me is I didn't have a lot of options. That was first gift, in order to be able to go make some money quickly. So I stayed, even though I was mad at it sometimes. But the idea of getting a little bit better every day, once I really understand that concept and make a plan, do it, review it, make a better plan, do it, review it, make a better plan. And just at the end of the day, did I get a little bit better than I was yesterday? Once I realized that and I could apply it to all the skills and mindset and strategy inside of network marketing, I realized that I couldn't be beat. I literally was unstoppable. I could go as high as I felt like going. And nobody, politics, company, nothing, nobody could stop me. I can go all the way to the top just with that. So speaking of going to the top, going to the next level, what's next for you? I mean, if you think through,
Yeah.
You've built this big business, you're still a young man, got a young family growing up. What do you see your future, your legacy?
Yeah. So Jim Rohn was asked after an event. This is the end of his career. Silver hair, been doing it for 50 something years. He's the one speaking. It's his event on the stage speaking. Man walks up to him at the end. He says, Mr. Rohn, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And Jim Rohn says, I want to talk about things that matter with people who care. And as I think of like the impact I want to make from a professional perspective, I want to be one of the voices when it comes to leadership in our country, one of the voices when it comes to personal development, one of the voices when it comes to how do you build and scale a life I'm one of the voices in the room talking about things that matter with people who care. And that, that's what I see myself doing. It's interesting, Eric. It's like we talked about success comas last night. Really, really I've thought a lot about that and really resonate with that discussion. By the way, just to make sure you're not listening to this thing, what are you talking? He's basically saying, in essence, you have some success and you kind of chill out a little bit, right? You enjoy it.
You don't even realize it.
Yeah, that's right. I feel I made 2 promises when I was struggling. I was literally driving down I-15. You've done this 100 times there in Salt Lake City. And I'm below zero financially. Anyone that's either in that spot or has been in that spot, you feel it all the time. There's a lump in your throat. Yeah. So when you swallow, you'll feel the lump. There's a pressure on your chest. This is that I can't breathe thing. You feel a pressure in your chest. Every time you breathe in, breathe out, you feel a pressure. It's really interesting. You're just that financial stress and pressure. So I'm a young dad. I got a beautiful young wife that I'm trying to make proud of me and trying to support. I got this little family. Driving down the freeway, and I just broke down, just like tears running down my face. And I had this conversation with myself, but honestly, like this conversation with God, and it's like this out loud thing in my car. I remember right where I was in the freeway. And I said to myself, and I said to God, I said, listen, if I ever...
Of course it was God, wasn't it? It always has to be God, and God always seems to call them to an MLM, which I highly doubt that God would want you to scam other people, but that's just my opinion.
Succeed. If I ever can break through and ever become successful, I promise that I won't forget what it feels like to struggle. I won't forget the emotions of the lump and the pressure in your chest. And I won't forget when you go to the restaurant. I remember I used to take my wife. I remember one time we didn't take a vacation, she and I, for 8 years coming up. Not one, nothing. I remember our anniversary once. I took her to a lunch date at a mall. And I had sunglasses on. I was like emotional underneath because I was kind of embarrassed. I'm like, it's our anniversary. Now we got to go do fun, cool things, right? And I just was like, I loved her so much, but I was like, I didn't have enough to give her what I wanted to give her, I won't forget what it feels like to struggle. And I have so much empathy for people in our profession that are doing, I don't lose a lot of sleep on the person that joins and quits. Yeah. It doesn't mean, I'm just like, all right, whatever. It's part of the game. It's okay. But the person that joins and does what they're supposed to do and puts in the effort, that was me. And I have infinite patience for people like that, infinite patience for people who try, The second promise, though, is I promised myself, I promised God, I said, listen, if I ever become successful, I will wear myself out trying to help other people to become successful. I'm not going to sit on my couch and count dollars. I'm going to try and serve people and try and pass on things I've learned and maybe a little insight or a little hack or a little nugget and I can take it.
Justin, the majority of people in your downline don't make any profit. They never will because the business model is set up so that they can't. You're earning money based off of their hard work. So how do you have empathy for them when you're literally scamming them, in my opinion? That's just my question. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
A couple of years off your learning curve, if you don't make these mistakes, I want to talk about things that matter with people who care, and do it as loud and as boldly as I can.
That's the fun of our business. That's the perks, the contribution, the feedback from contribution, being part of somebody else's life in a positive way. It's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
Let me say this. I told you this last night, but I want people to hear this. I think it's important. I met you for the first time ever last night, meaning physically.
Yeah.
Right. But you've impacted my life dramatically over the last 18 years. I remember listening to CDs. I remember watching some of your original interviews. I remember watching your opportunity video from back in the day when you're building networks and learning, listening, watching, learning, observing. I've worked with people, obviously first and foremost would be Tony and Sarah, but people whose lives you've completely changed through your mentorship and through your perspectives. A bunch of people on my team have gone through masterminds or whether it's GoPro events, etc. And I share this because I want to honor you and the work that you don't need to do this stuff anymore, but yet you'd still do. And I admire that and I respect that. But then the second thing is I want your people to hear this. Like all this work you're doing right now, there's ripple effects to this stuff. Like the person you're becoming right now, you're building stage stories right now. That struggle, remember, there's a dream, struggle, victory. People will relate more to your struggles than they will your victories. And so while you're in the struggle, take really good notes right now because you're writing some stage stories. Like when you're grinding and hurting and it's, doubting and, you're wondering, is it even possible for me? You're going to have people that are going to be saying, you thought that? And you're like, me, of course I thought that. They're going to say because they're going to get there.
Yeah.
And their work has a ripple effect. Your work over 35 years, in this case, over the last 18 specifically for me, has ripple effect. By the way, I've been in the game about as long as you were in the game when I joined, right? Because I'm 18 years in, you're 35 years in. Think of those first 17 years. If you wouldn't have paid that price, then my next 18 years, I wouldn't have been able to been influenced by you.
And think about how much farther you were ahead from where I was 18 years ago. Enormous. I'll tell you what, we'll conclude here, but listen, you keep doing what you're doing, take it to the next level. I will challenge you. There's a whole bunch of other levels
of course,
to your contribution and your ability to impact the world. I'll keep doing my thing. We'll keep pushing each other in order to be able to impact people, let people know network marketing is a better way. And if they make that decision, give them the tools to get where they want to go. All right. Fair enough.
Appreciate it. Amen.
Appreciate you.
Well said. Thanks, brother.
So that was our conversation.
Better way for what? Better way to get into debt? Better way to scam other people? Better way to work for free? Better way for what? Network marketing is struggling. Like MLMs are struggling, and it's a business model where you're just not going to profit. The majority of people don't profit. Also, I love, not really, but sarcastically love how everyone treats Eric Worre as like the father of network marketing. It's cultish, creeps me out a little bit, but I've been recording for so long. I'm so tired. It's so hot. I need to open the door and let some air from the air conditioning in. So I'm gonna wrap that up here. Thank you for watching, especially if you made it through part 1 and part 2. It's been long. It's been torturous probably. I'm sorry to put you through this, but I appreciate you if you're still here. Even if you gave up a long time ago, I still appreciate everything. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button because that's a nice free way to support my channel if you'd like. As always, big shout out to all my channel members as well, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.